This is Lindy.
I'm Russell.
From Love Create Celebrate. Welcome back to our channel where we share all of our DIY and home renovation videos.
Today we're going to share our DIY IKEA Vanity Hack.
I'm so excited about this. I don't know if you caught the video a few weeks back of our bathroom makeover, but if you did, this IKEA Vanity Hack is one of my favorite parts of the whole bathroom.
Yeah, we took just your run-of-the-mill IKEA vanity that we found in the as-is section, and we totally made it look custom and built in for a brand new ensuite.
So if you want to learn how to customize a small piece of furniture to make it look built in and give it custom drawer fronts, this is definitely the video for you. If you have not subscribed to our channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future DIY and home renovation videos. Okay, so let's get started.
We had our assistant assemble the IKEA cabinet, and obviously he did a great job. It was a smaller Godmorgon unit that we picked up from the as-is section in IKEA, and with it assembled, then we went on to install it in place in the bathroom. So our vanity is installed now. This would be where it's going to live. We have blocking that's holding the countertop up. So this is everything's final position. And now we know what we can do for building it in so that it looks like it's 100% custom to this space. So we're going to put filler panels on the side and on the top. So we raised this vanity counter height a little bit because we have an undermount sink, and we're trying to minimize how much the sink impacts our drawer. So yeah, we're gonna have 3 filler pieces, one that goes from here, one that goes across, and then one that goes in here. The spaces are a little bit different just because I have some plumbing on the back I have to work around. But then the plan is we're gonna take these IKEA drawer faces off. We're gonna put a little piece and mount it to the existing drawer. This will be off. And then we're gonna build new custom fronts that will get attached to these little wood blocks that we put in on the side. And then the custom fronts will come full width and look, when they're closed, that it's 100% centered to the space. And then so when you open it, you will see a bit of a gap on either side. But because we found this in the as-is, this is still faster and cheaper than trying to build one ourselves, and I think it's going to give it a really nice look. The next step is to add in your little filler pieces on the sides and on the top. We had a little bit of leftover material from when we built Lindy's office, so it was an exact match to the cabinet, but you could also use leftover wood and paint it the same color you used for the drawer faces, or even stain the wood to match. To make the filler pieces, you're going to want to measure the top, middle, and bottom on each side, just because if you have any variations in your wall, you can catch that, and the closer you have that filler piece to a tight fit, the better your custom built-in look is going to be. So to cut the material, because I was using the cabinet material, I actually used tape to kind of protect if it's an arborite or kind of finish, so that I minimize the chip out from the table saw and the miter saw. With that, I had the pieces in and out just to make sure I had a nice tight fit. And once I was happy with the fitment, I countersunk some holes from the cabinet side and then used little 3/4 inch screws to attach the filler pieces to the cabinet. In order to make your drawer fronts, you're going to have to pick up some material. When we first started this project, we weren't sure if we were going to use a stain finish or a painted finish, so we went with a pine board, but if you're just doing a painted finish, you could also use MDF. The first step is going to be to cut your boards to the height. So the 2 bottom drawers, we mimicked the exact height that the IKEA drawer fronts were. And then we also added a custom filler piece up top because we had an undermount sink and we were trying to make up for some of the height that took. With the boards cut to the correct height, we cut the boards down to a width that was actually bigger than what our final width of the cabinet faces were going to be. We did that because we weren't exactly sure how our pattern was going to be, and it gave us a little bit extra material to hold everything in place until we finished all the drawer faces. So because we're customizing the vanity, we actually made it slightly taller just to help with our undermount sink. We have to make a custom top piece. So these two pieces are cut to the exact same height as the existing drawers, and then they'll be longer. But you don't want the drawers to sit like this because you're gonna have issues if your house moves, just with opening and closing. So you wanna have a bit of a gap. We're gonna use a paint stick. I think that looks about right, and it's what I had in the shop. Lindy had a specific design in mind that she wanted the final vanity faces to look like. We tried out a bunch of different router bits to see what would look best and what would kind of match that final design goal. We experimented with 3 elements to kind of get the final look. We looked at the depth of the cut, the router bit type, and the spacing. Ultimately, we went with a 3/4 inch round nose router bit, and then our spacing was about 7/8 of an inch between center to center of the grooves, and the depth was about 1/4 of an inch. With the design figured out, the next step was to put the pattern onto all 3 drawer faces. We wanted to make sure that the pattern was continuous and lined up on all 3 of the faces that we were building. So to do this, we attached all the 3 faces together. We used stir sticks in between the drawers to add spacing so that the drawers could open and close, and then we used some scrap lumber to screw all 3 pieces together. With everything fitted together, we gave the front faces a quick stand with 120 grit and then 220 grit to make sure we had a nice smooth surface to work on. So at this point, we have the right height for our vanity, for our custom vanity. You could just cut these to width and you'd have your drawer faces and either paint or stain, and you would have the custom look. But what we're gonna do now is actually add a profile to the drawer faces. That's what all these lines are. Once we had all the lines marked out, we set up my track and router guide and started cutting some grooves. We finished off all 3 panels, and at the end we did have a few little areas that had some chip out from the router bit, and for these areas I just used a filler to kind of patch and sand the profile to match. With all the grooves cut, I was getting ready for paint, so I gave all 3 faces a quick sand by hand just to kind of smooth any burrs or fuzz from the wood, and then I started with a coat of black paint. After the first coat of paint, I noticed a few more imperfections. I just used some filler. It was the drywall patch filler because we knew we were painting it, just to fill these areas, and then again gave everything a light sand by hand to prep it for the second and final coat of paint. The next step was to modify the IKEA drawers. Because we made custom fronts, the IKEA hardware wouldn't work to attach them, so we had to come up with our own solution. I tried a couple different methods to install the drawer face to the drawer, but ultimately what I found worked best was to use a little block that you attach to the side rails of the IKEA drawer, and then to drill holes through that block to the new front face to attach those faces. You can also see in the video that I had to cut a hole in the back of one of the drawers. This was because we used an undermount sink and I had the drain pipe that extended down into the drawer area. So I cut out the hole in the back of the drawer and I used some of the old drawer slats to kind of box it out and finish the drawer unit. The next step was to take measurements from the center of the vanity to each side. The reason we had to do this is, if you remember, we actually left the drawer faces long so that we could get a nice custom fit when we went to install them. So you can take those measurements from the center line of the vanity to the wall and transfer them to your drawer faces. One item to note is clearances. In our case, we had a molding from the door in the way, so we just had to take that into account when we cut our custom drawer faces to width. We cut our drawer a little bit narrower just so that we could clear that molding when it pulled out. Remember when you're cutting as well, just to make sure that you take your measurements from the center of the piece out, just like you measured from your vanity. So this will make sure that all your grooves line up and you have a perfect fit when you go to place them. With all your pieces built, the next step is to install the custom faces to the IKEA drawer units. You can just take your custom faces and install them to the IKEA drawers using the blocks that we added.
You can see when the drawers were all done that we had this custom piece already cut out for the pipes below the sink, and that this piece we had added is attached both to the side of the IKEA cabinet drawer and to the door front. So these pieces are what hold it all together and give it a beautiful finish with custom fronts. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed our vanity hack. I know we have been loving it since we finished this bathroom. It's definitely one of my favorite features of this space.
Yeah, it definitely added a really custom look to the washroom, and I think it wasn't that much work either.
Or that much money. It was so affordable.
Yeah, very affordable.
If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and let us know in the comments below. And as always, hit the bell so you don't miss out on future DIY and home renovation videos. Thanks for watching.